The darkness is your ally.
Batman against Bane has always been a clash of resolve. From their origins in Nightfall, it has always been about who has the stronger will, who can withstand more. Both emerged from the darkness, both who conquered fear. The two men have always shared similarities, and in the absolute world, it is no different. Absolute Bane's origin differs from the Mainline Bane in the boy's inception. Where Mainline Bane was born already encased in metal bars, Absolute Bane was born free, in a sense. Born in Santa Prisca to a long line of revolutionaries and rebel leaders, the boy was born amidst the fighting. The words, the history, the imagery he was constantly fed were those of freedom. The Quetzal, their flag, the emblem of the Cielo Libres, embodied exactly that. His father would continually ask him if he could see the Quetzal flying, and although he never could, he continued to believe in his people and their goal, becoming a vital part of the group that captured the capital and held it until they were imprisoned. About 2 years into their sentence, a computer is smuggled into Peñaduro, the prison, and a picture of an actual Quetzal is pinned to the screen. And the boy is horrified at how small the bird is, how weak looking it is. Bane dreams not of the Quetzal, but a terrible white, burning bird with a back like a skull. And yet he continues to follow his father, whom he loves. Mainline Bane never knew his father, and yet he was forced to carry out his father's sentence in Peñaduro. The sins of the father must be paid for by the son. In a few stories like Legacy and others, they center around Bane's search for his father. Absolute Bane flips that idea on its head and shows how far a son is willing to go to make his father happy. It shows how much of an influence one man can have on his son. In his own way, Bane here is a champion of hope, believing and fighting for something that he cannot see. And after 11 years, the boy, his father, and their men escape. While other men broke and crumbled, they didn't. His father anoints him as the leader of their group, and he was brimming with pride. But when they are met with the man in white instead of enemy forces, and then given an offer he could not refuse, Bane kills his father in order to achieve his, quote, father's dream of peace. Absolute Bane loves Santa Prisca just like his father does, but Bane is born into this world of fighting. 100 years, 3 known generations of Cielo Libres, and they have not made a dent, frankly. Even the genius boy, with all the inroads he was able to make, could only hold the capital for 3 days before they were crushed by foreign troops. Not only are the freedom fighters fighting against their own government, they are fighting against the backing and funding of international aid. The island is rich in minerals and other material riches that the Spanish, the French, the world all desire. War will return to that island so long as mankind desires wealth and power. Mainline Bane, on the other hand, is a man without choice. Again, he suffers the sins of his father and bears the punishment after his mother is killed. He was born into the prison, and so fighting was his only form of survival. It was his only freedom. He believed the world was a prison, so he meant to conquer. Mainline Bane is a man inherently innocent, but made into a monster in order to survive. For Absolute Bane, what is peace but some distant, faraway dream? Peace is nothing he has ever tasted or felt. He was not forged in the fires of peace. He was not born in it. War, though, is something tangible. Something that you feel at every waking moment. It brings urgency, action. It's alive. In war, men become infinitely intelligent and wise. They become so much more dangerous. This Bane was forged in the fires of war, and I love that artistic choice in chapter 11 to drench the boy in red in his origin. He is someone who doesn't know anything but violence and brutality, so the calming blue, peace, was never a possibility, never a choice. Bane is tied to war. He needs it to make sense of the world around him, and now he brings it wherever he is called to inflict it. The white flaming bird that he saw in his dream, that flaming bird is his flag. That's his master. Through violence, Bane can find reason and purpose. Peace is death, he says, because if there is peace, then Bane has no purpose, thus bringing death to himself and his people. So by becoming the avatar of war for the Joker, he brings peace to Santa Prisca. So he has to fall in love with war. Bane could never believe in freedom but he can believe in conquering another. That's something so central to all of Bane's iterations, and Scott Snyder returns him to that origin here. Bane sees in Batman and Bruce, he sees his younger self who was so driven, whose resolve was forged in blood and violence, and whose will was unbreakable, which is why he believes that Bruce is his successor, his replacement. Bruce is a man who is fighting for the freedom of his city and his citizens, and who has to meet these villains' brutality and violence with even more of his own. He too is a freedom fighter who sees a flying creature as his symbol of freedom and justice. He too was forged in darkness and continued to hold onto hope, even in the darkest of times and in the coldest of prisons. Bane and Batman have had to adapt to an increasingly evil and brutal world. And it's fascinating that the one whose nature, whose family bred freedom fighter after freedom fighter, chose to give up on the cause, whereas the son of the teacher and the politician would never even fathom bending the knee. Martha and Thomas Wayne propel him forward. Alfred does. But most of all, it's his own character, his own nature. Even when Gotham is taken, overrun by these masked men, or whatever abomination is in front of him, Bruce is unable to give up on his home. His flag, his logo, and his bird are not terrible ones. He sees it and he believes in the bad. He believes in the impossible. Batman will not sacrifice his morals for anything. The freedom of Gotham City under the Joker will only allow for the Joker to oppress another city, another country, and another group of people. And that is something that the Batman will not stand for. Simple as that. Since he was a child, Absolute Bruce has had a strong heart before any incident. Whereas Mainline Bruce's strength of character and heart typically comes as a result of his parents' death. But Absolute Bruce's foundation is incredibly strong and sturdy. These character-defining moments happen when he is a kid. We spend a lot of time with him as a child, and we see that his parents are, of course, such massive influences as to why he becomes the headstrong man that he is. A man determined to do good no matter what. He's got such a healthy foundation. Absolute Bruce feels like an unrelenting force, an unstoppable force, who's going to crash into everything if it means he will help people, because he feels so compelled to. Bane had a choice, and he made it. That's where he and the Mainline Bane differ, and that's where he and Batman clash. Bane made it so that his country thrives, so that they truly live a good life, only at the cost of his soul, perhaps. Again, a world that Bane could imagine. To be honest, it's not a world that Bane could imagine, it's a world that the boy could imagine. In saying that, perhaps the story is arguing that his perspective is childish because Bane was not born yet, he was still the boy. Throughout his origin, he is never referred to as the man, only the boy, not until he gave his father up and took the Joker's offer. Bane has a childish view of freedom and of the world, a selfish one. And I think Bane's most childish realization happens in the 13th chapter, and we catch a glimpse of the big brute, vulnerable, and again childish. Venom has increased his intelligence tenfold. He has an encyclopedic knowledge of history and psychology and martial arts, and yet he believes that the Joker will let him go and let him rest once he has found his replacement, no strings attached. Surely it's a lie, he tells himself, because how else can one survive these inhumane, monstrous tests? How else can somebody relish in being used and abused, in becoming a weapon? I think there's also fear and desperation in Bane, because Bruce is his golden ticket, his vehicle to remove himself from the true devil that is Absolute Joker. So in a sense, Bane is still a caged bird fighting for his freedom, and in a twisted way, he is the Quetzal. Bane still has hope, but in his pursuit of personal liberty, he goes from oppressed fighter for the freedom of all to oppressor, working for the very man, the people who wish to destroy and exploit his people. I also think that for Bane, finding a successor ensures that he did not kill his father for nothing. The Absolute Batman line, the Absolute world as a whole, as orchestrated by Darkseid, is more insidious and much darker than the main Earth that we are accustomed to. Absolute Batman is a middle-class engineer. Albeit he is still a genius and has a wealth of resources that he created, he doesn't have the technology or the almost infinite money to rely on. This Batman is extremely young, 20, 21 years old, and he's inexperienced. He doesn't have the luxury of having these allies that we are used to him having. Alfred joins later on. There's no Lucius, there's no Bad Family. He isn't well traveled like the Bruce we know. And as the story continues, the world just gets larger and larger. Black Mask is bad, but pales in comparison to Freeze, who doesn't hold a candle to Bane. And Joker's status as an international threat makes him that much more daunting. From Arc A in Santa Prisca, Arc B in Russia, Arc C in China, and Arc M in Gotham, we learn about these unregulated prisons that run in conjunction with governments around the world. Prisons run by the Joker, the same man or thing who has created these abominations. Black Mask tells Batman that the big guys killed this world a long time ago, and yet they, quote, keep us all slaving away with the promise that it's all still alive. You barely pay your bills while their money makes money. You struggle to hold this system together that does nothing for you, doing the right thing so they can do the wrong one. Why? And that right there is the line. The struggle to hold the system together that does nothing for them. That's what Bane realized in Santa Prisca when the Joker approached him. That's why he agreed. He has recognized his ancestors' struggle for this system. Again, 100 years and generations of fighters that he is a long line of. He doesn't see a path, he doesn't see hope, he doesn't see a future. So Bane has let go, and his people have thrived because of it. This is a story about how the elites desire to extinguish the hope of the people. How capitalism doesn't just suffocate us physically, but how it breaks us mentally until we have no desire to fight back, just like Bane. Until we join our oppressors and make up justifications to believing in and joining in their gluttony, like Black Mask. Roman represents nihilism, and Bane represents the death of ideals and dreams, as the Mask mentioned. Joker represents that elite, that top 1%, the people who are ready to drown the world and all of its people if it means gaining more power, more control, more money, whatever. Darkseid says that hope must burn brighter, and for Bruce's character throughout this series, that's the only thing that's been keeping him moving forward. When his best friends have been brutalized and dissected, all because of him, when his body gets mangled and his mind is altered by venom, what propels him forward? It's both the people that he has inspired and those who have inspired him. It's the bat that defies the impossible. That's what he tells his father, right? Martha is increasingly brave in the face of these masked men. His father, being a teacher, a social worker, a regular man with a true heart of gold, is such a powerful and moving choice in a world that is more nightmarish than the one we are accustomed to. Bane versus Batman is a clash of ideals. Bane is war, Batman is hope, peace. Bane is the death of idealism, and Batman is its champion. One who fights for a better tomorrow for everyone, against one who has given up their fight and has only fought for the freedom of their own people. By doing so, he has joined his oppressor and has become one of them. I do think there is a part of Bane that truly wishes to see Bruce experience the same joy that he does when he returns to Santa Prisca and sees his island thriving. I do. Because for as brutal as Bane is, there is some benevolence to his character that is marred by tragedy and loss. Again, Batman is his only hope, a twisted version of hope. Bane is trying to break Batman into giving up his fight so that he may achieve the same peace and benefits that he has. And Batman responds with an endearing speech from the heavens, one that tells Bane that he would rather die than sacrifice his morals. This world is so dark, so insidious. Joker drops a bomb, completely decimating Santa Prisca at the end of chapter 14 of Absolute Batman, freeing him from any, quote, burdens. This world is so different than the one that we are used to, so much more brutal. And yet, even against all odds, even against a self-healing, kaiju-like abomination like Bane, Batman fights to fight, like Alfred says, because it's the right thing to do. His nature compels him to do so. Hope in the absolute universe must burn impossibly bright, and Batman embodies exactly that.